YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to Members Only. If you're tuning in, you already know, get the likes up because you already know how we move over here. Now, before Atlanta became the city of Bentleys, platinum records, and hip-hop moguls, the streets were being carved up by real dealers, real crews, and real killers. And one name that still rings bells to this day is Kilo Ump. He stamped his name. Not a rapper, not a celebrity, a street boss, flashy, fearless, and tied in with one of the most disciplined and dangerous out-of-town crews to ever touch Atlanta, the Miami Boyz, also known as the Untouchables. This is the story of how they slid into Atlanta streets, sparked up turf wars, and changed the city underworld forever. Kilo Ump wasn't just a local dealer. He was the definition of a street heavyweight. He wasn't low-key either. Ump moved big, like way big. Dressed big, spin big. Everything was big. Pause, no homo. No, I'm messing with you, but behind that flash was a deadly connection. The Miami Boyz weren't just some wild crew. They were structured, focused, organized. They were known as the Untouchables because once they locked down the city, it was almost impossible to move against them. In Atlanta, yeah, man, they saw it as wide open, lane wide open. Now, when they touched down, they didn't come looking to partner up with anybody. They came to take the whole territory. Back then, Atlanta's street game was still growing. It wasn't like New York or LA, where, certain blocks had generations of crews already stamped in. Atlanta was a city on the rise, but there were gaps, and the Miami Boyz knew how to exploit those gaps. They wasn't too loud, when they first moved in. They locked down the pipeline. They flooded the streets with higher quality product at better prices. They moved smart. But when it came to Kilo Ump, I'm not gonna lie, man, he was kind of loud, man. Kilo Ump, he was the front man. He was sporting, fly shit, man. Like, he was flying around in expensive machines, heavy jewelry rocking, and let everyone know he was winning. And the clubs popping out in the streets, loud at the dice games, dropping a bag. He made himself visible. And in the streets, that kind of shine make you a magnet for love and hate. Local crews started feeling it. Corners that used to move for them, now moving for the Miami Boyz. Prices dropping. Man, their profits dried up. And, all over the city, flexing like he ran a place. Like, who the fuck is this dude, man? And that's when tension rise. Some local crews tried to press the Miami Boyz, led to many shootouts. But here's the thing, Miami wasn't solved. The Untouchables came with discipline, structure, and shooters. When they got tested, they handled it quickly and violently. The turf wars turned deadly, shootouts, robberies, power plays. But Kilo Ump, he was moving like nothing was going on, man. He kept moving like nothing touched him. Every night he was outside, man, with the flashy cars, man. He threw that shit on, the fresh leg, fresh jewelry, shit shining. And that's what made him dangerous. He wasn't hiding. He dared people to try him. When a structured out-of-town crew invades the city, three things give them the upper hand. The superior pipeline. The Miami Boyz were tied into the Miami ports, so that was a good advantage. They controlled supply, and they controlled the price. The locals couldn't compete. Number two, ruthless enforcement. If they tried to cross them, the retaliation was immediate. There were no warnings, no drawn-out beefs. This is why they called themselves the Untouchables, because testing them usually ended up very bad, and that's real shit. And number three, flashy distraction. Kilo Ump was like a street billboard. Now, his flash made him a target, but it was always a distraction for the real power moves happening in the background. While people were focused on Ump's jewelry, the Miami Boyz were quietly stacking millions. Kilo Ump was living a life most street dudes only dreamed about. But in the game, flash come with a cost, and we all know that. The more you shine, the more you invite problems to yourself. You got stick-up kids, rival dealers, even law enforcement. But Ump wasn't afraid of none of that. He was well-respected. He was feared. Some say his confidence came from knowing the Miami Boyz were behind him. Others say he just believed he couldn't be touched. Regardless, his reputation, solid. Atlanta streets had to respect his hustle, even if they hated how he moved, man. It is what it is. The Miami Boyz eventually left their mark on Atlanta. They prove you could come from out of town and take over anywhere. If you move right, stay disciplined, and back your play with real muscle. Kilo Ump's story is a street lesson in some cities. Being flashy gets you loved. In other cities, being flashy gets you lined up. But Ump's, he walked the line, the thin line between both, and he did it in his own way. So Kilo Ump and the Miami Boyz, the Untouchables, they showed you how they shook Atlanta streets. They sparked turf wars and rewrote the playbook on how to move in another man's city. After the Super Bowl party in 2000, there were two men that were stabbed to death. Now, this case was highly publicized through Ray Lewis, who eventually was acquitted of the murder and took a plea deal. Now, there have been long street rumors and whispers about Kilo Umps being connected to the circle around Ray Lewis during this era. Specifically, it suggested that some people involved in the murder case or connected to the environment that night may have ties to Kilo Ump Street's connection. Now, when it comes to the connection between Ray Lewis and Kilo Ump, it wasn't about the direct criminal activity together. It was more about the proximity, social overlap, and the mutual acquaintance. In the late 90s, early 2000s, Atlanta club scene, street scene, and celebrity scenes were heavily intertwined. It was very common for athletes, entertainers, drug dealers, and club promoters to move in the same circles. Now, Kilo Ump, he was known to be highly visible in that type of scene, the club life. And Ray Lewis, he was a superstar during the time. He loved the Atlanta nightlife. Even if they weren't tight, of course, their social worlds absolutely overlapped. They likely shared the same clubs, the same promoters, probably the same woman, and possibly the same security or mutual acquaintances. Street figures like Kilo Ump often had access to the top security and muscle and information. High-profile athletes moving through dangerous cities like Atlanta often align themselves with respected street dudes, either for protection, access, or credibility. It will make sense if Ray Lewis knew Ump through a mutual network that provided safe passage in certain environments. Now, the 2000 murder case wasn't just a random club brawl. It involved multiple street-connected individuals, heated egos, and potentially underworld figures. The two men that was killed, they was connected to local street players and the street game. Street rumors suggested that the incident was connected to a power struggle or beef between two groups tied to different crews. In cases like Ray Lewis, it's common for power street figures to help manage fallout, whether that means helping to suppress information, offering protection, or even advising on how to move in the aftermath. The fact that Ray Lewis distanced himself quickly from the people involved in this case ultimately ended up in a plea deal. It suggests that there were strong forces working in the background to calm things down. If Ump was connected to any of the players involved in this case, he would have the influence to either help de-escalate or shift the street narrative. Now, and I'm not saying Kilo Ump and Ray Lewis were connected. They wasn't partners. They were likely connected through social circles, mutual friends, and club scene. It's highly probable that Ump had street connections to people that were either present or close to the 2000 incident involving Ray Lewis. In the early 2000s till today in Atlanta, especially Atlanta, big athletes and street figures, they always overlap. By design, safety, access to women, and, the statuses often cross over. But, that's it, man. I got to get out of here, man. I'm getting tired. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on so you don't miss out on the content. Don't forget to hit the playlist, man. I got more of this content if you're feeling it. Don't forget to tune in to become a Patreon member. I got podcast shows and exclusive videos. But anyway, y'all take care. Y'all take it easy out there, man. Y'all be great. I'm out.